Atheists, Naturally Good. Part 2. The Sociology of Morality. Let's look at the science of morality. Sociologists have determined that all people have a common underlying morality. Rather than attempt to guess at what guides morality, modern sociologists have surveyed the population as a whole to find out what people actually do think. Here is a typical set of questions that look at the limits of morality. First up, let's consider Scenario 1. Scenario 1 comprises of two similar situations, but slightly different. Case A, suppose there are 5 children playing on a railway track and a train is coming down the track. There's a fork in the track, and you have the possibility to redirect the train onto another track. But a little old lady is standing on this track. What would you do? Well, the majority of people would redirect the train, saving the 5 children, but unfortunately killing the little old lady. Case B, suppose once again there are 5 children playing on the track. This time I have a little old lady standing next to me. If I push the old lady onto the track in front of the train so as to wedge her body under one of the wheels, it will stop the train and save the children. But unfortunately, the lady will die. Should I push the old lady onto the track? Well, the majority of people say no. In these two situations, the end result would be the same, yet people answer differently. This is because we do not allow a person to be sacrificed directly to save other people. However, if the sacrifice is indirect or consequential, we as humans are willing to accept the consequences. Scenario 2. Case A, suppose 5 children in hospital, each requiring a different organ transplant, and one healthy person walks into the hospital. Should we sacrifice the one healthy person to save the 5 children? The majority of people say no. Case B, suppose 5 Israeli children in hospital, each requiring a different organ transplant, and one healthy Palestinian walks into the hospital. If we ask an Israeli if we should sacrifice the one healthy Palestinian to save the 5 Israeli children, the majority would say yes. Once again, we have a similar situation between A and B. However, the outcome is different because it feeds into in-group, out-group behaviour. In-group, out-group behaviour cuts across our general morality. It allows us to do unto others as we would not want others to do unto us. In Northern Ireland, we've had a conflict that has been dragging on for a long time. The conflict between the Protestants and the Catholics could never have dragged on for so long without the group identity. All the citizens of Northern Ireland look identical except for the churches that they attend. Without being able to identify people as belonging to a group, you would not have this form of out-group violence. The next scenario, Scenario 3, looks at the difference between moral conventions and moral absolutes. And by moral absolutes, I mean those aspects of morality that do not change from culture to culture. In Case A, a group of children are told by their teacher that today, if they want to ask a question, they could just shout it out without having to raise their hands. The teacher said that this is the way they did it in France. The children proceeded and just yelled out their questions that day. No big deal. In Case B, a group of children are told by their teacher that today, if somebody in the class was bothering them, they could just hit them in the head without having to report the problem to the teacher. The teacher said, that's the way they do it in France. The children said, no, you can't do that. If the French do that, then they're barbaric. Whilst sociologists have found a difference between moral absolutes and conventions, they have not been able to come up with the underlying rule. However, in Scenario 3, we can see that the golden rule may play a part. Obviously, whether a person does or does not raise their hand to ask a question, no one is directly hurt. In Scenario 3b, the scenario violates the golden rule. Whilst we're good at tracking those actions that directly cause harm, we are poor at tracking emissions of action that result in harm. In an area around the world, somewhere a person may be dying of malnutrition. Omitting help is not identified as particularly immoral. In this section, where we have looked at the three scenarios, I've been looking at what human morality is rather than what it ought to be. Another consideration is the impact of our large brains on our morality. Rather than just accepting our evolutionary morality, we can opt for a better set of ethics. Currently, the largest donator to charity is Bill Gates, an atheist. We can look to extending the Golden Rule to other animal species too. We can look at reducing the human population so that land may be given back to our animal cousins. We need to look at taking swift action to reduce our carbon footprint, as many species are on the brink of extinction. Another moral consideration is the impact of memes. Religious and pseudo-religious memes are capable of misdirecting our morality. A lot of people have noted how similar communism is to religion. This is what I mean by pseudo-religion. Steven Weinberg said, "With or without religion, you have good people doing good things and evil people doing evil things. But for good people to do evil things, that takes religion." We can see this playing out in society. Planes flown into buildings, the murder of John Lennon, the bombing of family health clinics, Jonestown, and the Holocaust, just to name a few. Evolution has given us our morality, however it is not perfect. By using our brains, we can improve on the decisions we make, but we need to be ever vigilant of religion and pseudo-religions. Conclusion. Sociologists have found that humans share a common morality. Our shared morality is like having an absolute moral system. We have to be wary of in-group, out-group behaviour such as nationalism, patriotism and group solidarity.